All right, welcome foundation students. This is Mrs. Schussler, and you are going to go ahead and start your asynchronous lesson. All right, so this is our asynchronous lesson. Homeostasis, okay, remember our unit is homeostasis. And this is lesson 3, all right? So go ahead and go to Power School. Click on lesson 3. And then copy the DigiNotes into your digital notebook. All right, so you should have a whole new page in your digital notebook. Go ahead and pause the video, and then when you are ready to move on, go ahead and unpause it. All right, you'll see on your DigiNotes that on the top it says homeostasis investigation. Our learning objectives today is you're going to formulate questions about a phenomena. We're revisiting that idea of asking questions or formulating questions. We are going to classify some questions. You're going to revise your questions, and then we're going to practice research and form our hypothesis. Notice that these are the first 3 steps of the scientific method. Scientific method. Okay, we're zooming in on the first 3 steps. So let's get started. All right, so for our we need to recap again from last week, or last lesson. We asked the question, what is science? Okay, so in your notebook, you should have a number 1 that says science is the study of blank. All right, so science is the study of the universe. Here's like a fun picture of the universe. Science is the study of the universe. So then when scientists do science, they observe phenomena. That's going to be your blank for number 2. Scientists observe phenomena. What are phenomena? This could be an example of phenomena in physics, related to physics, is this drinking bird. If you've watched the drinking bird, it kind of bobs back and forth, which is kind of fun. An example of chemistry and biology can relate to alligators actually living in this frozen water. So alligators will hold their noses and above the water will freeze around their heads, and they actually survive this way. So this is a phenomenon. It's something that's really interesting and fascinating about our universe. Another example of phenomena is plants that grow towards the light. Okay, we can see plants actually grow toward the light. Maybe you've seen that on your own plants, but these are all phenomena. These are things in the universe that scientists observe. So then what do we do with those phenomena? Scientists are curious, right? We're all curious. So when we observe phenomena, we ask questions about the phenomena. All right, because we're curious, we ask questions about the phenomena. That's going to be your next 3 blanks for number 3. And so then these questions lead to something we call inquiry. Okay, inquiry. What is inquiry? And you have this in your notes. It's an investigation that's used to explain the phenomena. All right, so the goal of an inquiry, is to explain the phenomena. All right, so this is the whole goal. This is what really we want to do in the end, is to explain the phenomena in order to understand the universe. And more importantly, to understand and know more about God, okay? Who is the creator of the universe. Ultimately, we want to inquire or investigate the phenomena in order to explain the phenomena, in order to understand the universe, and ultimately understand and know God through science. All right? So you may go ahead and just revisit those 5 steps, just to recap from last lesson. And then we will go ahead and move on to today. All right, so the scientific method, we talked about this last lesson. This is a procedure of how we ask questions and do inquiries. So we can overlay the scientific method on top of what we just talked about. Okay, so the scientific method fits within what scientists do. Okay, so we're going to walk through the first 3 steps of the scientific method. And just a reminder that the goal in the end, as you're walking through these first 3 steps and we zoom in, you can't forget to think about the main overarching goal, the whole forest. We're going to be looking at a few trees. So here we've got our few trees. We're going to look at the first 3 trees. Okay, but we can't forget to zoom out and remember that there's a whole forest, okay, with lots and lots and lots and lots of trees, okay? So the whole goal, the forest, is to design is to answer the questions about our phenomena. So we design an inquiry and investigation to help answer questions about our phenomena. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with question. This is our first step of the scientific method. So when we ask a question, we can have 2 types of questions. All right, so our questions, I'm going to show you a phenomena. Here's a picture of a phenomena, okay? So we can ask 2 types of questions. We can have scientific questions and non-scientific questions. Scientific questions, an example would be, why does the gecko have ridges on its feet? Okay, this is a gecko feet. Why does the gecko have ridges on its feet? Non-scientific questions, the gecko's feet are pretty. Okay, so these are both good questions, or these are both questions that we can ask about the gecko's feet. However, this non-scientific question is not measurable. We can't quantify pretty, okay? Like, that's nice that you like the gecko feet. That's totally okay. However, we can't quantify pretty. So this is not a scientific question. It's a non-scientific question. All right, so when we ask a question, we want to ask scientific questions, okay? And the cool thing about scientific questions is they can actually lead to more scientific questions. So we say that, well, why does the gecko have ridges on his feet? And you look a little bit closer at the ridges. You think about, okay, what do geckos do? They like to climb trees. Maybe they like to run really fast. And then you think a little bit more. And you realize that your question actually led to another scientific question. Do the number of ridges affect how fast a gecko can run? So what if a gecko has like 30 ridges, does it run way faster than a gecko that has 10 ridges? Okay, so you can... What's cool about scientific questions is because they're very specific and they're measurable, you can ask more questions from these scientific questions. All right, so just a recap to dig more into, or compare and contrast scientific and non-scientific questions. Scientific questions can be quantified. Okay, they can be quantified. They're testable. However, non-scientific questions are questions that we can ask. But they contain characteristics that cannot be measured or quantified, such as beauty. Okay, the one that we observed was beauty. And another characteristic that can't be quantified is opinion. Okay, so another example of opinion is why is basketball a boring sport? Okay, so you got a basketball you're observing, and you wonder, that's not a basketball. There we go, that's a basketball. You observe a basketball and you think, okay, question I have about this basketball. Basketball is boring. So why is basketball boring? You can't quantify boredom. Okay, so we have to make that distinction between scientific and non-scientific questions. Now let's go back and we're going to zoom in on our scientific question again, okay? Because we can actually, of scientific questions, we can have good scientific questions. And we can have great scientific questions. Now, what makes them different, okay? Now, a great scientific question gets into the, has this kind of a template. Does something affect something, all right? So going back to our gecko example, a good scientific question is, why does the gecko have ridges on its feet? Okay, that's a good scientific question. Why does it have ridges on its feet? It can be tested and answered by science. However, a great scientific question, remember we have something affects something, right? So here we're looking at our 2 somethings. Do the number of ridges affect how fast a gecko can run? Our first something is going to be the number of ridges, okay? Do the numbers of ridges affect something? Our second something is the speed at which a gecko can run, or how fast a gecko can run. All right, so within scientific questions, we have good scientific questions and we also have great scientific questions. In high school, the goal is to ask great scientific questions. All right, so just a reminder, in high school, we want to make great scientific questions. All right, so today we're going to think about what makes a scientific question great. All right. remember, are something affecting something? How is something affected by something? And these two somethings are called variables. These two somethings we will call variables. All right. What is a variable? A variable is anything that can change or be changed. It's something that can change or be changed. All right. In other words, and in more scientific terms, it's a factor that can be manipulated, controlled for, or measured in an experiment. So a scientist is going to manipulate, control for, or measure a variable. Variables can be either dependent or independent. All right, what is an independent variable? This is the cause, okay? An independent variable is the cause. It stands alone and it isn't changed by any other variable. A great example of independent variables, and one that you all commonly see in science, is time. All right, time is our independent variable. Now, what is our dependent variable? The dependent variable is the effect or the outcome. It's affected by something else in the experiment. It could be affected by our independent variable, actually. So we could look at a dependent variable of speed. Okay, how fast you can run. How is speed affected by time? Okay, so we could say as time goes on, how is speed going to change? You could measure your top speed at a number of different ages. Let's see, the first time you run, you're probably 2, 4, 6, 8, and you can go all the way up until you're about 80, and you can see how speed is going to be affected by time. All right, so there we have example of dependent and independent variables. We're looking at cause and effect. Now, what I'm going to help you guys do is you can go through and you can pause the video, but you're going to practice formulating a question by identifying which one is the dependent variable and which one is the independent variable. So go ahead and pause the video and think about, of these two red words in this question, does our poop weigh more if we eat a lot? Which one is going to be our independent and dependent variable? Pause the video. And you should find that the poop weight is our dependent variable and the amount of food we eat is the independent variable. Okay, so if we eat a lot, this doesn't really change. This is a standalone factor, okay? But if we eat a lot, this is going to maybe have an effect on the amount of weight our poop will have, okay? So this would be our independent variable, our dependent variable is the poop weight. Independent variable, how much we eat. All right, so let's try it again. How does human heart rate change when we hold our breath? Go ahead and identify independent and dependent variable. Pause the video. You will find that our independent variable is going to be holding our breath. And then that is going to have an effect on our dependent variable, the heart rate. Okay, does the heart rate change when we hold our breath? Breath is a standalone, or I guess the intake of oxygen then. When we have zero intake of oxygen, it's going to, maybe it will have an effect on our heart rate. We're not really sure how it will, but perhaps it would have an effect on our heart rate. Okay, so independent versus dependent variables. Let's do one more. For our last one, does parent IQ affect the children's IQ? Which one is dependent and which one is independent? Go and practice on your own. Okay, so you should have found that the independent variable is the parent's IQ. All right, the independent variable is the parent's IQ, and this will have an effect perhaps on our dependent variable, which is our children's IQ. All right, independent stands alone. Dependent is affected by the independent. Okay, that's what we're trying to determine as scientists is, does our independent variable have an effect on our dependent variable? Now I'm going to give you the chance to try. So in your Digi Notes in your handout there, you will see this box that says question. And there is speaking about scientists. So scientists questions usually consist of an independent and dependent variable, okay? And just think, we're thinking of great questions, great scientific questions consist of an independent and dependent variable. And you are great students, so we're going to examine another example of independent and dependent variables in great questions. So go ahead and highlight in your Google Doc the two variables here are body temperature and air temperature. Go ahead and highlight in blue or green, depending on what color you have, which one is independent and dependent. So you can pause the video and highlight those two variables. And this should be what you get. Body temperature is dependent. Air temperature is independent. The air temperature, we're trying to determine, does the air temperature have an effect on the body temperature? So does our independent variable change our body temperature? Okay? So that is our question that we're going to investigate. And you're going to practice investigating homeostasis by asking this question. All right, so now let's move on to research. Scientists do background research on the topic for two reasons. Okay, the first reason they do research is to fill in the gaps. Okay, scientists don't know everything. I know you might think your teachers might know everything, but off the top of their head, they don't know everything. They might need to fill in their gaps and the gaps in their understanding after they ask a question. All right, and the second reason we do background research is to determine if anyone else has asked the same question. Okay, because if someone else has asked the same question and they've already done an investigation or inquiry to answer the question, then we don't have to do the inquiry. We can find the answer to the question from something the other scientists have done, and that's the cool part about science. And you may have heard the phrase "standing on the shoulders of giants." In today's day and age, we scientists, you and me, grade 9 scientists, we are all standing on the shoulders of giants, and these giants are scientists of years past that have done tons and tons of the legwork that now we get to benefit from. All right, so which is really cool, but. Like I said, we do background research on the topic to fill in the gaps, determine if anyone else has asked the same question, knowing that the end goal is to make an educated guess for this research, okay? We're trying to educate ourselves in order to make the best guess possible. Okay, so go ahead and you are going to get the chance to try, okay? So this is kind of the big part of today's assignment. You are going to do research. Just a reminder, this is done to understand more about your topic and allows you to make an educated guess for the questions asked. So you want to educate yourself to make the best guess for the question that we asked above. Usually when we're doing research, we identify the keywords in a question and research on it. You guys know that you've done that before. So in this case, our keywords are body temperature change. So we would do background research on how the body temperature is regulated in the human body. Okay, so you're going to pause this video and you're going to do a little bit of research. You're going to record 3 pieces of information on the human body on the topic of body temperature change. Okay, so as you record these pieces of information, I've included numbers for you there, 1, 2, 3. So go ahead and record your findings in bullet points below. Reminder to use in-text citations, so behind each piece of information that you find from one source, you include your in-text citation behind it, okay? And then at the bottom of the page, which if you scroll down to the bottom, or if you look down a little bit, you'll see a references box, okay? And you're going to include your full text citation in MLA8 format in the references box below. If you need a refresher on how to research, oops, sorry, that's not a very good color for writing up there. For research, or how to do citations. Okay, those 2 things, if you look on your DigiNotes, I have a click here button. How to research, ? Click here. How to cite sources, click here. You can click on those 2 resources and the information provided by Mrs. Hall will be found if you click that link, okay? And if you need extra help, please email me and I would be happy to help you do a little bit of research, okay? So go ahead and do that for the rest of, it should take you about 10 to 15 minutes, okay? So pause the video and do your research. All right, last part of today, we're going to look at what a hypothesis is. A hypothesis is your best guess answer to your question based on the research you've done. So remember, you were trying to become more educated, to make an educated guess. You're not just pulling stuff out of thin air, you're actually making an educated guess about your topic question, okay? So our question, I've kind of reworked it to fit this statement. When air temperature increases, my body temperature will increase, decrease, or stay the same. So when you're writing a hypothesis, you're going to pick one of these three answers. All right? So in your notes, if you scroll down, you have your own hypothesis box. Go ahead and highlight which of those three you predict for your hypothesis. Okay, I predict that when air temperature increases, my body temperature will increase, decrease, or stay the same. Go ahead and pick out which one you think based on your research, and that will be your exit ticket for today. Okay, so as soon as you have highlighted your hypothesis, we are going to, you can go on fall break, you can leave, and then we are going to actually put these hypotheses to the test when we come back to school, okay? So you may go ahead and stop the video when I say go and enjoy your fall break. Thank you so much for all your hard work. You guys have done great during online learning.